إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم إني أسألك علما نافعا ورزقا طيبا وعملا متقبلا. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, ladies. We're going to start with the tafsir of Surah Al-Quraish, inshallah. So as usual, I will begin with just reading the surah, and I'll be reading it twice. The first time just briefly, and then the second time, after you hear the tafsir, I'll recite it slower to give you time, inshallah, to ponder over it. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لإيلاف قريش إيلافهم رحلة الشتاء والصيف فليعبدوا رب هذا البيت الذي أطعمهم من جوع وآمنهم من خوف. Inshallah, just before I start, I just wanted to remind you and to thank you for attending, because inshallah we'll be getting lots of rewards for this, based on the hadith where we hear the Prophet ﷺ say that when a group of people assemble for the remembrance of Allah, which we are doing now, the angels surround them with their wings. Allah's mercy envelopes them, sakina or tranquility descends upon them, and Allah makes mention of them before those who are near Him. So it's very comforting knowing that inshallah will be counted from those whom Allah will mention us by name to the angels. And despite not doing this lesson in person, in person, we're doing this online. We're very blessed with the fact that we live in a time that seeking knowledge has become so easy and so accessible. And we can be literally be in the comfort of our own home, hearing an Islamic reminder from somewhere from the other side of the world, and we'll be benefiting as though we have actually traveled there, parked the car, taken out our notes and start writing down exactly. So I wanted to take the opportunity to remind you as well that the Prophet ﷺ said, seeking knowledge is a duty upon every Muslim. طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم. So we need to remember how important it is to seek knowledge. Whether we are going to a lesson and traveling an hour, or we are pretty much logging onto Zoom and taking out our notebook and writing, as long as we are seeking knowledge. That's why I just wanted to remind you how important it is to seek knowledge. And that's what you're doing right now, exactly. You're seeking knowledge, you're hoping to understand the meaning of these surahs that you're reciting in your salah, and inshallah this will bring you a lot of benefit. And the most important benefit is that you're going to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah. Okay, so we'll start with the tafsir, inshallah. This chapter is the 106th chapter of the Quran, and it was revealed in Mecca. So if you remember before, when I said about whether a chapter is Meccan or Medinan, you'll notice that I said that if it's Meccan, it means that the audience was mainly pagans who denied that Muhammad was the messenger of Allah completely, and they denied that Allah was the one God worthy of worship. Okay, but if the revelation was Medinan, then we know it's mainly directed at Muslims, people that have already embraced Islam. There is a Muslim community, and there is a Muslim leadership, Muslim country, Muslim laws. So this is Meccan. And as you may have known, the Prophet ﷺ, he came from the powerful tribe of Quraish and of the clan of Hashim. So this is good to know, if you don't know this, that the Prophet ﷺ, he came from the tribe of the Quraish, and he came from the clan of the Hashim. So the Quraish got their power from the role as successful merchants. Every clan or every tribe, they got power from somewhere, okay? And the Quraish got their power from being successful merchants. So they would buy and sell to other countries. So the merchants would buy and sell goods, and that's how they made their living. In order to sell, these goods, they'd load them up on caravans. So when I say caravan, it doesn't mean that caravan that you go camping with. It just means that they have something like a camel or a horse, and I've got pictures up on the screen so you can see examples of caravans, and they would load up lots and lots of stock on it and take them, and they would travel to neighboring countries to sell them and make profits. So they would make stuff. Sometimes they would sew things, produce things, and then take them to another country, because every country was good at making something. Okay. So they would produce something and then take it to a neighboring country and then sell their stock and then, make profits. So now, because Mecca was actually the intersection of many trade routes, they were able to easily trade from all areas. So they weren't restricted to selling their stock only to one country. They could trade to the west coast of Arabia, to north, to Syria, and also south to Yemen. And this meant that they had many, many customers, and they could sell more and more goods. And this was all due to their prime location. So if you notice the location of where Mecca is, it's all about location. So they're located in a very, very good place. So just say, for example, to help you understand this, say your restaurant is located in the heart of a very, very busy CBD. And your business, what's going to happen to your business? It's actually going to thrive. It's going to thrive far more if it was situated at the end of a suburban area where hardly anyone drives by. It's all about location. So your business can thrive. Not, online businesses are a little bit different these days. They can thrive pretty much anywhere. But if you have a business situated somewhere, it's going to thrive based on its location. So your location can bring you lots of advantages, or it can make you very disadvantaged. And as for the Quraish living in Mecca, their location was ideal for trade. So it gave them access to surrounding countries. They had access to surrounding countries, and alliances had to be made between countries to make sure that the merchants that would have a safe traveling route, considering that both countries will be benefiting from that merchandise. Because when a country sells products to another country, the other country is also benefiting. So it's not just the seller that's benefiting, but the buyer is benefiting. Actually, if just say, with COVID-19 and all that kind of stuff, if something happened where stock could no longer be coming to us, not only would the seller be suffering, but the buyers will be suffering as well, because they are in need of that stock. They need that food. They need that merchandise for survival, for their living, for their family, for their schooling, for their business. They need this stock. So the Quraysh, they would sell some of their stock, okay? And they also traded some of their stocks for other stock that people in Mecca that they didn't have. So they would then sell that different stock to the people of Mecca. So they would go to a neighboring country, they would sell, just say, half of their stock, and then with the remaining of their stock, they would actually swap it. They would trade. They'll say, okay, we'll give you, 1,000 of our clay pots, and you give us this much fruit, for example. So they would actually trade. So then what would they do? Their trade, they would go back to their country, Mecca, to their city, and then they would sell the stock that they traded, and they'll make even more profits. Okay, so this surah was actually revealed to remind the Quraysh of Allah's great blessings and mercy that He gave them, the Quraysh. Their location was meant, what meant is that they could travel from all directions to sell their stock while being safe from highway robbers all year round. Allah had facilitated for the Quraysh safe trading routes to Syria and Yemen every single season. So Allah was addressing the Quraysh. This surah is called the Quraysh. It's addressing the Quraysh in particular, who were blessed with safety, security, plenty of food that they were able to import from surrounding cities that no other cities were also blessed with. because not all countries were able to trade with all surrounding countries. Some were restricted, but the Quraysh were not. They were not restricted. So they were not only able to sell their goods and make money, but then they could buy new merchandise that was not available back home. And then they would resell that stock to their people and make, profits once again. So the Quraysh, they were really blessed with having a prophet come to them out of their own people, because in this surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding the Quraysh of what they're blessed with. First of all, they're being blessed with this safe traveling route. And they're also very blessed with something else that they really don't appreciate, that from their own tribe, a prophet emerged from them, but they didn't see that as a blessing or anything significant. Like imagine if from your family, a scholar emerged, like one of your children became a scholar, or a sheikh, or someone very knowledgeable. This is an honor, like from your own family. And yet the Quraysh, from their own tribe, Muhammad came from them, and they did not appreciate that, So imagine, for example, that Allah blessed you with a beautiful house, a beautiful, thriving business, really pious children, educated children, and then you just say, oh, no thanks, I don't actually want it, I'm good. And this is exactly what the Quraysh did, and that was their response. But even worse than that, they denied the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So now that was a little bit of a background, but now we'll start with the actual tafsir, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. لإيلاف قريش, for the security of Quraysh. Ilaf means it's referring to security. So Allah is reminding the Quraysh of the convenience He has facilitated for them, which is security. Allah has situated the Quraysh in a very convenient location, which has made it super easy for them to travel and sell their merchandise to neighboring countries. And the dearest thing to the Quraysh was their successful business. The most important thing for the Quraysh, I think we really have to understand this. The most important thing for the Quraysh was business and money. And if you remember me mentioning in other tafsirs of other surahs, I was talking about this is why they rejected the message mainly, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called for one God. And if they cancelled out all these gods, all these idols, then it was going to affect their economics. It was going to affect their tourism. People would no longer come to Mecca anymore to visit all these gods. What are they thought to themselves, what are people going to come to worship one God? So they were all about money. Everything to these Quraysh was about money. Their business was their lifeline for them. They were willing to risk losing the akhirah for their business. So Allah is reminding them of the security that they have, because if it wasn't for being blessed with security and safety, they would never be able to confidently go out and travel to sell their goods and get more goods. They would have to otherwise be in a state of fear and anxiety. So they were very, very blessed to have this ilaf, this security. Allah is reminding the Quraysh of the security that He's blessed them with. إِيلَافِهِمْ رِحْلَةَ الشِّتَاءِ وَالصَّيْفِ, their security during winter and summer journeys. Allah is reminding them about them having security all year round, because they had access to a safe route that would literally be continuously undertaking journeys of travel the entire year. So, or imagine if, how some people that only get business during certain times of the year. Say you sell a product that is only in demand in winter, okay? Just like, say, snow clothing, and that's your business. You would only make money during a certain season. But imagine if you had a business like a fruit market or something like that, where you're selling products that all year round. It's better for you because you're making money regularly. So Allah is reminding them of their safe route, that they would literally be continuously traveling the whole year, and it would take them months to get them to a country. They would sell, they would get more stock, and then by the time they get to their next destination, it's another season, right? Every couple of months, the season changes, and then they get a whole new bunch of customers, and they would purchase more goods that would only ever be sold in that season. And then they would purchase goods that was only, for example, available in summer. So they had access to lots of types of stock, like winter stock, summer stock, all kind of stock all year round. So you might think that's easy for now, in this due to technology, but in those days, it wasn't really possible. Okay, it's easy now for us, but even now with us, you may not realize this unless you really really think about it. Countries need to have alliances with each other. If countries are not happy with each other, they prevent each other from entering their country and selling things or buying things. If countries fight with each other, okay, I'm not going to sell you oil. Okay, I'm not going to sell you coal. I'm not going to sell you this, and I'm not going to allow your stock to come in my country anymore. And this affects everyone. Okay, so Allah is reminding the Quraysh of how blessed they were to have safety during their business travels. فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ هَذَا الْبَيْتِ. So let them worship the Lord of this house. Allah is telling the Quraysh. So what house is Allah referring to here? Which house? Allah is referring to the Kaaba, that we refer to as Baytullah, okay, the house of Allah. So this is a good time to mention that you might hear this word being mentioned in a lot of lectures. This is the house of Allah, Baytullah. Does this mean that Allah lives in this Kaaba? Is that what Baytullah means? The house? No, this is not what it means. When Allah says his house, it's just a way of giving something status, elevating it. Similar when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls the camel of Salih the camel of Allah, Naqatullah. This camel was raised in status by giving it the title to show its importance. So back to the Kaaba, Allah is reminding the Quraysh to worship the Lord of the Kaaba. Why? Because you will learn, inshallah, next week in Surah Al-Fil, Tafseer of Surah Al-Fil, that we are going to extensively talk about the story of the Fil, that in the year of the Prophet ﷺ's birth, there was actually an attempted attack made on the Kaaba by Abraha in order to destroy it. And despite Abraha's large army, Allah protected the Kaaba by sending birds that threw stones on the army, and it caused them to be destroyed. That's what the whole Surah Al-Fil is about. So the Quraysh were safe, and so was the Kaaba at that time. So Allah wanted to keep the Quraysh as custodians of the Kaaba, because Muhammad was going to come out of the people of Quraysh, and Muhammad was going to emerge as a prophet from that tribe. So we see that in this verse, Allah is drawing the Quraysh's attention to the Kaaba and reminding them, listen, worship the Lord of this Kaaba. You are custodians of this Kaaba. Allah has raised you. You are the custodians. You have the keys of the Kaaba. So worship the Lord of this Kaaba. And don't give Allah intermediaries. Don't put idols in the Kaaba. Don't slaughter animals as though they, for other gods. It should only be done for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding the Quraysh to worship the Lord of the Kaaba. And I've just put some pictures on the screen of some interesting pictures that I found of the Kaaba long time ago. One of the earliest available pictures of the Kaaba. That's why it's in black and white. الذي أطعمهم من جوع وآمنهم من خوف. Who has fed them against hunger and has secured them against fear. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding the Quraysh to worship the Lord of the Kaaba. Who? Allah. Allah, who has fed them against hunger and has given them security against fear. So here Allah is reminding the Quraysh that it is Allah that has facilitated for them to have food being available to them all year round by importing produce from surrounding countries, and He's allowed them to be safe from highway robbers during their travel. For those who visited Mecca and Medina, you'll notice that these two cities, Mecca and Medina, they're deserts. Like nothing grows in them except food that require a really dry, hot environment, like dates. There's not many things that can grow in this place. It's quite barren. Not many food can grow there because the climate, it's not suitable. However, when you go to the markets, you'll see that there's all these foods in the markets, and you'll see fruits and vegetables of all kinds. Yet, how do they have access to all of this? Because of the importing and exporting and having refrigerated freight service available now. But many years ago, like I said, when these were not invented, the people had to survive with the produce of their own country or risk traveling to other countries to get stock. And Mecca was privileged enough to be located in a position which allowed them to safely travel to get food back to Mecca without being afraid of highway robbers. No one could rob them. Okay, why? Because the Quraish, they owned the intersecting point for other countries that had to travel through there. So no other country would attack the Quraysh, because they knew that they had to use the Quraysh's roads to get to other countries. Because if they robbed the Quraysh, then the Quraysh wouldn't let them to safe passly through Mecca to get to wherever they wanted to go. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding the Quraysh of their economic prosperity and the one who gave them this prosperity. Who? It's the Lord of the Kaaba, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is saying that the one reason why he gives the Quraysh safety and security and a good economic position is due to the sacred house, the Kaaba, being positioned in that city. So worship the Lord of this Kaaba and don't give Allah partners and rivals. Follow your prophet who emerged from your own tribe. So you see, sometimes, subhanAllah, you get so used to a blessing that you forget that it's there. And you need to be reminded of it. And that's what happened with the Quraysh. They just got used to the fact that they had easy access to other countries for so long that they didn't realize, like, this is such a blessing. And sometimes, only after someone reminds you of that blessing is really there, then sometimes, like, you're grateful. But unfortunately, some people need to be tested by losing that blessing in order to really appreciate what Allah has given them. And that's what happened with the Quraysh. They were the custodians of the Kaaba, and they owned the whole city, and then they lost it. They lost it all due to their being ungrateful. And we ask Allah to not let us be of those who don't appreciate Allah's blessings until Allah takes it away from us, and then we bite our fingers in regret. We hope that we're not one of those, inshallah. So that was the end of the surah. It was quite short. I didn't want to, go on and on and on. There could have been a lot more I could say about this surah. However, I do try to condense it so that I hope that the information will remain in your mind. If it's prolonged for so long, the tafsir of these short surahs, sometimes you lose the main message. So inshallah, I hope that you're able to remember all the things that I said, inshallah, about this surah. So now I'm just going to say this surah again, nice and slow, and then I'm going to do a little revision of another surah, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. لإيلاف قريش إيلافهم رحلة الشتاء والصيف فليعبدوا رب هذا البيت الذي أطعمهم من جوع وآمنهم من خوف. So that was the end of that surah. Inshallah, I'm going to now do a little bit of a tafsir of Surah Al-Falaq. And I would really recommend you write a little bit of notes. This time it's going to be really quick, just to help remind you of the tafsir, inshallah. So I'm going to recite the surah first. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الفلق. Say, I take refuge and seek refuge with the Lord of daybreak. So falaq is daybreak. So the word qul means say or declare, and the word falaq means daybreak. And in our previous chapters, if you remember, we said that Rabb is one of Allah's name, the Lord, one of Allah's names, the Lord who takes care of us and he protects us. So Rabb also means someone who has ownership and is in charge. That's what Rabb means. So our Lord Allah is the owner. He's the one that's in charge of all our affairs. So when we say that Allah is our owner, we're saying that he's the master and we're his slave. So whenever you see a master, there has to be a slave. So Allah is our master and we are his slave. Rabb also means murabbi, which is someone that makes sure that something grows and is well taken care of. And that's exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does. He takes care of us. He protects us and he makes sure that we grow. Just like a parent, they try to rabbi and do tarbiyah to their child because they want their child to grow and be independent and be good. So they have to, raise them well. So in this verse of Surah Al-Falaq, Allah is commanding the Prophet ﷺ and the believers to say specific words as a means of protection. And he's telling us to seek refuge in him, Allah, the Lord of the creation, from the evil which resides among his creation. Min sharri ma khalaq. He tells us to seek protection from the evil of what he created. Here Allah is telling us that we need protection from what? Okay, from the evil of some things that he created. We are to seek protection from the evil which resides in that which he created. Remember that everything has a potential good or potential bad. I want you to look at your phone, okay? You're probably listening to this talk from your phone or your iPad or your device. In that, there could be good or it can be bad. You can use your phone to, subhanallah, you can get a degree from your phone, online university. You can do a memorization course. You can do lessons from your phone. You can give charity from your phone, from internet banking, okay? You can check up on your family using your phone. But that same phone, subhanallah, can be used for a lot of evil. You can waste hours on social media. You can backbite on your phone. You can cause fitna between people on your phone. People can look at really disgusting things like pornography or have haram relationships with people through the phone. So every single thing that is created has a potential good or a potential bad. And I'll give you another example, which is our children. Okay, our children can bring us a lot of good and get a lot of benefit from our children. Sometimes they can take care of us in our old age. They can financially support us. They can emotionally support us. Sometimes, just say you're sick and you need that, that shoulder to cry on. They can be your friend. They can be a traveling companion. However, your children that's not always the case. Sometimes that's not the case. There can be good from them and there can be a lot of harm from them. They can burn you out. They can financially break you. They can cause us emotional pain, making us cry. They can cause us physical pain. There are some children that abuse their parents physically. Their actions can drive you up the wall, okay? Some children are really disobedient and they can make you feel like you're an incapable parent. They can make you really feel terrible about yourself. And some mothers have to deal with the fact that they've lost their child spiritually as well. Their child might leave Islam completely. And this can cause, a lot of emotional harm for a mother, okay? Because there's nothing more harmful to a Muslim mother than losing her child to kufr. And yeah, this can be very hard. So this can cause a lot of harm for a parent. So in summary, in this verse, Allah is asking us to seek protection and refuge in Him, Allah, from the evil which resides in anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created. وَمِن شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ, and from the evil of the darkness, إِذَا وَقَبَ, when it gathers. So Allah is reminding us of something else that we need to seek, His protection from. What's that? The darkness. As we know, many evil things happen at night more so than during the day. And we said earlier that things like rape, robbery, killing, break-ins and so on, they occur more at night than during the day, like generally speaking. This is based on statistics. People are more likely to commit sins like zina and go out and clubbing and take drugs at night more than during the day. And that's why they've got nightclubs. People don't advertise nightclubs for the day. They advertise innocent things during the day, and then these really disgusting things for night. Even the pubs, okay? Usually, like, of course, you've got people that go and drink alcohol during the day, but majority of people drink alcohol and get drunk and stay up at the pub till 3 a.m, and it happens at night more than the day. So the night time is also a time when evil spirits and harmful beasts, they spread out, and people who are outside at the onset of Maghrib, so like at the adhan of Maghrib, they are easy prey for the jinn, who literally like look for bodies to possess and harm. However, if you are out, sometimes it happens where you are out during the time of Maghrib. You don't need to be afraid. You just need to make sure that you say your evening adhkar. And if you do say them, then inshallah you are protected. And if your children say their adhkar and they are out and about during this time, they are safe, inshallah. But if your children do not say their adhkar, then at the onset of Maghrib, do not let them be outside. Wait at least 15-20 minutes, and then if need be, they need to go outside for whatever it is they can. It's just on the onset of Maghrib. وَمَن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to seek protection from sorcery and from the evil of those who practice sorcery. So what else is Allah asking us to seek protection from? Okay, He told us from the night time, and from other things, and from what? From people who do witchcraft and sorcery. Allah is asking us to seek refuge in Him from the harmful nature of magic and those who practice it. Because some people think that there's a lot of benefit in sorcery, but no, it's very, very harmful. Allah is not trying to scare us with this, but He's trying to make us aware of the evil that we might have been oblivious to. And if you're not aware of an evil, it's easier to fall into it. And that's why, even though we want our children to be like, you want to save them and protect them and cover them from knowing about all these harmful things like homosexuality or rape or molesters and things like that, or pornography. You don't want to tell them and open their eyes to them, but it reaches a point where you actually need to tell your children about these evil things, like smoking and the evil associated with drugs. Because if you don't, then when they are subject to that, they won't really realize how bad it is, and they should stay away from it. But if you explain to your child, not like a really little child, okay, but an older child, that the evil of pornography or the addiction of these things, or smoking. I'll give a very easy example, okay? This is probably a really good time to mention about smoking, that it's so addictive. It's so addictive. And you can give them examples of, like, for example, chocolate. You have a little bite, it's not enough. You need to have more. One bite is not enough. You need to finish the whole Mars bar. And the same thing with drugs. When people start taking drugs, and smoking is a drug, it's very, very difficult to let go of it. Very, very hard. Unless they have very high iman, it's very hard to let go of it. And a lot of people, they leave it and they come back, leave it and come back. So don't get your stuff yourself stuck onto something that can cause an addiction. So you need to actually explain to your children what addiction is and how hard it is to leave an addiction and the evil associated to it. So this is just an example. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us the evil of witchcraft and sorcery, especially when witchcraft and magic, it's actually grounded into the cultural practice of our people, especially the Arabs. And many oldies, they openly practice it. It's not like it's secret knowledge. They practice these kind of things and fortune telling in a little sabhiyah, in a little gathering. They'll get their coffee tea out and either the coffee cups and turn it upside down and this and that, and then they'll actually openly talk about, yeah, you know, we want my daughter to get married, so she went and spoke to this magician, you know, like they openly practice it. And we might start thinking that doing magic and asking help of these practitioners of magic is actually good, you know. But when you learn that this can potentially take you outside of the fold of Islam, you become more cautious of your surroundings and you become really careful not to fall into this. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is bringing our attention to evil so that we don't fall into it. It's not to scare us. So other than avoiding falling into fortune telling yourself, the easiest way to seek protection from magic and witchcraft happening to you, not just you doing it yourself, is to recite the 3 quls in the palm of your hand, blow it in your hands, and then wipe as much of your body as you can with your hands. And encourage your loved ones and your little ones to do their morning and evening adhkar. If they don't know all of their adhkar, there's many apps that, you know, like for example, the My Dua app, it's like a little picture of a Kaaba. You click, you write down morning in the search bar, and it will give you all the list of the adhkar that there are to say. But if you don't know them, say just your 3 quls and wipe all over your body. Say Ayatul Kursi, say the last verses of Surah Al-Baqarah, and then please make an attempt to start learning these adhkar. They are so important. People are willing to go and attend lectures and go hours and ask for help, but not many people are actually willing to learn their adhkar. It's so available with these apps. You just type in morning adhkar and it will show you all the du'as to say. And if you say them over and over again, give yourself a year, and then you would have memorized all of them off by heart, and it won't be as hard. When you read something over and over again, eventually you will memorize it, whether you realize it or not. You're actually memorizing it. And the next verse, وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ, and from the evil of the envious when he envies. So this is the last thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us to seek protection from. From what? The jealous person. The person who is jealous when their jealousy is manifest. So the word hasid means envier, and hasad means envies. And so Allah is asking us to seek refuge and help in Him, Allah, from those who are envious of us. The one that envious has a seed of hatred and dissatisfaction in their heart. This is, if you feel jealousy of anything other than someone that has religious knowledge or someone who has wealth, who is giving for the sake of Allah, if you feel jealousy in your heart towards someone other than these 2 reasons of jealousy, then there is a seed of hatred and dissatisfaction in your heart. So these people are dissatisfied with the decisions that Allah has made. They won't admit it. They won't admit it. And maybe you won't admit it, but this is the truth. They are not happy about Allah deciding to give His good to some people and not to them. And this dissatisfaction is very dangerous. It's very dangerous to have jealousy in your heart. Like arrogance. People don't realize how bad arrogance is. Like, this is why Shaitan is not going to Jannah. Even though he believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he is not going to Jannah, even though he believed. Why? Because of his arrogance. He didn't want to listen due to his arrogance. So arrogance and jealousy are very, very dangerous traits. If you have these two traits, you need to try your best to break these really, ugly character traits. So the reason why this dissatisfaction is very dangerous is because you're saying that Allah is not wise, but Allah is the wise. He is the wisest, and every decision that Allah makes is well calculated. However, we don't have the mental capacity to understand all of this. We need to remember and remind ourselves that Allah knows what He's doing. You're not wiser than Allah. So don't complain about what you do and you don't have as though Allah didn't make the right decision. Yes, you might ask Allah for what you want, and there's nothing wrong with asking Allah what you want, but don't feel angry and envious towards someone that has something that you want. Yes, sometimes you see that someone has something that you like, but don't allow that feeling in your heart of desiring, because there's a difference between desiring and then jealousy. You might see that someone has a bag that you like or a car that you like, and you might think, mashallah, I'd like to get one like that. Okay, that's fine, but do you in your heart wish that she doesn't deserve it? Like, what did she do to get that? You've got to be really, really careful with these feelings. The Prophet ﷺ said, do not wish to be like anyone except in two cases. The first is a person whom Allah has given wealth and spends it righteously. And the second is the one whom Allah has given wisdom of the Holy Quran, and he acts according to it and teaches it to others. So these are the two times, the two prime times that is mentioned, that we are allowed to feel this sense of jealousy, but not where we want that person to not have it, but to have this feeling of we want that. So be very careful with feelings of arrogance and feelings of jealousy, because once these two seeds are planted in the heart, they lead to lots and lots of other ugly characteristics. So we need to make sure that we attack these characteristic traits, and pull them out from their root before they spread and they grow into this big tree, and it's like a cancer. Once it spreads, it overtakes everything that's pure and healthy, and it corrupts everything. So we need to make sure that we rip it out as soon as you start feeling these feelings of jealousy or arrogance. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Humble yourselves and put yourself in order. So we need to be really careful of these feelings, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He distributes His blessings in ways that we can't understand why, and we don't know the future. We don't know the reason why Allah does things, but we can't ask why, and this is not fair, and I deserve better, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows best. So I pray that inshallah everyone has learned a great deal from the tafsir of Surah Al-Quraish and from the revision of Surah Al-Falaq. And if now when you heard the revision of Surah Al-Falaq, if you felt like this was so new to you and this was not a repetition, I would really highly recommend that you go back to the playlist and you re-listen to Surah Al-Falaq in detail. If when I was saying this revision of Surah Al-Falaq, you were like, yep, I know this, yep, I remember what these words say, this is alhamdulillah a very good sign that you're comprehending it and it's entering in your mind and you're memorizing it. But if you haven't, please go back and re-listen, and I would recommend test yourself. It's actually really good to have healthy competition with no one better than yourself. So open up the mushaf, look at the surah, look at the verse, one verse at a time, and get a pen and paper and write down everything that you remember about that ayah, about this one particular ayah. Like Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Write down everything that you remember. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Write down everything that you remember and test yourself. If you literally can't remember, like, oh my God, I did this and I cannot remember what this is meaning, and maybe you've just written a one-line sentence, please go back and listen to the recordings again until you have a deep, grounded understanding. So, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.